Welcome, everybody, to another edition of, oh, wow, my camera's a little bit off there. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the I'll BW Jackson for America. Hold on, let me see if I can make a quick adjustment here. I don't know whether you all can see that or not, but had a little bit of studio work done. Let's see, I think that's a little bit better. Well, let me see. There you go. I think that's good. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. Had a little studio work done yesterday, and I guess some things got shifted, moved around a little bit. But at any rate, look, first thing right out of the box is we got a big storm coming. It's going to hit the Gulf. Hurricane Helene is going to hit the Gulf. It's going to head on up inland. And I am really concerned about the Salt and Light Conference, which I think the day of the conference, the weather should be okay. But the 2 days, today and tomorrow, leading up to the conference are going to be a problem. I was due to fly into the Charlotte area tomorrow. I'm not sure that's going to work now. So you all be praying for me because I've got to make some decisions about exactly what our travel plans are. I'm doing Texarkana on Saturday. I was supposed to be flying out of Charlotte on Saturday and into Texarkana. Really, the only way for me to get this done would be to leave today, and I just don't think that's possible. I don't think that's workable to try to shift flights and get there today so that I'm there for the storm tomorrow. The area that I live in, Southeast Virginia, does not appear to be in the pathway of the storm. So, but parts of Virginia, I think, are more inland, are in the path of the storm, and the Carolinas, clearly, Charlotte is expected to get hit very, very hard, and the Asheville area, there's an Ashland, Virginia, but Asheville, North Carolina, and Marion, which is right near Asheville, which is where the conference is going to happen. Those spots are going to be hit very, very hard today, and then even worse, I think, tomorrow, when we would be due to be flying in. Very heavy rains, flooding. I expect significant delays tomorrow. I'd be shocked if there weren't, because it's very difficult for planes to fly in that kind of weather, and certainly difficult for them to land and take off with the same frequency and smoothness that they do in good weather. So be praying for us, because I'm just not sure what's going to happen there. That was one thing I wanted to get out of the way. Here's the second thing I want to mention to you. I have refrained from joining TikTok because I don't want to do anything that puts me in any way in support of China's encroachment on our country. I consider China to be an existential threat to the future of this nation. I consider China to be a mortal enemy of the United States of America. And I consider China to be a country that is at war with us right now. China is at war with the United States of America right now. But it's not a kinetic war. They're using media. They're using communications. They're using economics. They're using foreign relations. Anything they can in order to try to diminish, ultimately to destroy American predominance. I don't think they want to destroy our economy because they depend too much on it. But I think what they do want to do is get control of the American economy, get control of the American people. I'm not participating in that. And so I've refrained from TikTok. I've now signed on to TikTok. I haven't done any broadcasts on TikTok, any live streams on TikTok yet, but I've now signed on because law has been passed and signed by Joe Biden to require TikTok to divest itself of ByteDance, which is a Chinese-owned and controlled company. And so, in other words, so that TikTok cannot have any Chinese ownership or control. That is what I want. The law has been passed. The implementation, it gave them 9 months to do it, so they have until the end of this year. ByteDance has now sued to try to overthrow that legislation. I'm not sure what the basis of their lawsuit is. This is a national security matter as far as I am concerned, and the court shouldn't have anything to say about legislation that requires that a foreign adversary not own a company that has immense influence, particularly among our young people in the United States of America. So, but now that the legislation has been passed and the process is moving, and I see other conservatives doing the same thing, I'm going to jump on TikTok and start doing some live streams on TikTok, and we'll see what the Lord does with that. But yeah, my struggle with it was I wanted to reach the people on TikTok, but I didn't want to be a part of China's infiltration of our country. So I refrained. But I'm now going to jump on and believe God to give me a bunch of followers, young people particularly, that I can speak to, because they need somebody with godly wisdom to speak into their lives, because they got all these celebrity idiots are talking to them and filling their heads with a bunch of mush and just leaving these poor kids completely bereft of any sense of godly wisdom, any common sense for that matter. But thank God there is an awakening happening in our country. A third great awakening, I believe, has already started in our country, and we're seeing it pop up in universities around the country where you're having revivals, you're having baptisms. We're seeing people who have been, in fact, people who have been on the left now coming over to the right and saying, you know what, I'm a Christian now. I don't believe that junk that I used to believe. We've seen that happening. It's been episodic here and there, but nevertheless, those signs are presenting themselves. I said to you all maybe a couple of weeks ago, maybe longer than that, maybe about 3 weeks ago, I said, I don't want to jump the gun on this. I said, but I'm sensing a change in Mark Zuckerberg. I'm sensing something going on there. And it may or may not be real, but something is happening. There's some kind of adjustment going on in his life. Well, just read an article in Breitbart this morning that Mark Zuckerberg is now calling himself a libertarian. Remember, the first thing he said that I thought was really interesting was that he admired the way President Trump handled the assassination attempt. Of course, he used a term I wouldn't use, but he said it's the most bad blank thing I'd ever seen, which was, it was complimentary. If you'll forget about, the way he expressed it, it was complimentary. I know leftists didn't like that, because you haven't heard any leftists compliment the president on what he had. In fact, they criticized the president for saying, fight, fight, fight. And say, see, he's stoking violence. Somebody just tried to shoot the man. And he's saying, I'm not bending down. I'm not bending over. I'm not laying down. I'm not quitting. That's all he was saying. And I want everybody else to just keep fighting for what we believe in. And of course, my goodness gracious. But Mark Zuckerberg said he thought that the way President Trump handled that was really admirable. Interesting. Well, now he's calling himself a libertarian. He's saying he's not going to spend money. In fact, he even said in this article that he's allowed himself to be influenced by leftists in his company, and he's no longer going to do that. He doesn't want Facebook to be viewed as a left-wing company, or Meta to be viewed as a left-wing company. He said he's going to start maintaining neutrality in politics. Now, that's not good enough for me, but it's a start. So I really believe that this is in part the hand of God moving in this nation, shifting things, changing things. Now, whether and to what extent that will be reflected in Facebook's policies, because I know for a fact that Facebook is shadow banning me. I mean, I know it. I just know it. Because I can tell by and by the way, it's improving a little bit too. So maybe that's another indication. But the number of views I used to get versus the number of views I've gotten, say, in the last just few years. I mean, I'm flatlined, basically. It's like there's a lid on my growth on my Facebook page, and it just doesn't move. And with all the product that I put out, I just don't buy that. In fact, I mean, even I've just boosted something recently, my sermon on Sunday, because I got such great feedback. I boosted it, and even the boost is not really doing much. So I know that they've been shadow banning me. I know that, and I'm on Rumble. As a matter of fact, I've got to find out how my son is handling that, and I got to talk to him about how I figure out what's going on with Rumble. But basically, I'm going to use every avenue available to me to get the word out and just believe God for the growth in spite of the effort to sabotage us. Like YouTube, same thing. Well, we can't monetize your account because your content is harmful. I mean, they'll put child pornography and all kinds of filthy, nasty mess on these channels, but somebody like me, preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ, giving a viewpoint that's according to the word of God, my content is harmful. So if I say homosexuality is sin, and it is, that's hate speech, that's harmful. You can't monetize your account because you're saying harmful things. Somebody comes on and says, we just operated on a 12-year-old child and removed that girl's breast. And it's just a wonderful thing we've done for her, because it wasn't a girl, it was a boy. And we figured that out. There was a boy in a girl's body. So we are now altering that body to make it consistent with the boy that's on the inside. And that mess goes, oh, yeah, wonderful. Oh, that's just great. Let's promote that. It's insanity. It's spiritual and moral insanity. These people are mentally insane. I mean, they know exactly what they're doing, but they're spiritually and morally insane because they've completely lost touch with morality, which is what happens when people start making up their own morality. Well, you know what? I got a lot of stuff to cover today. So pray for me about this trip to Salt and Light Conference in Marion, North Carolina on Saturday, because I'm just not sure yet exactly how I'm going to talk to the folks down there. If I had a private plane that could put me on an airplane and fly me down there today, I could do it. But if I've got to fly out commercially tomorrow afternoon, that to me is a very iffy proposition. So we'll see. All right. Let's see. Got lots of stuff to cover here. Let's begin with these assassination attempts on President Trump. The left is not letting up. I really believe this, folks. And I'm not a conspiratorial thinker. You all know that. I don't like conspiracy thinking. I think it's intellectually lazy. But that doesn't mean there aren't any conspiracies. And as I said before, when people all share the same values, when they have the same outlook, the same worldview, they don't really need to get in a room and conspire because they're on the same page anyway. And it's very, very easy for them to synergize because they think the same way. Well, I wish the Christian community would learn to take that approach, that we ought to all be thinking the same way and pretty much voting the same way and espousing the same policies because we're all singing from the same hymn book, which is the Word of God. But unfortunately, that's another matter. Let me not get off into that. the left is continuing to use the rhetoric of assassination. They're continuing to, in some ways, in my view, to subliminally call for the assassination of President Trump in one way or another. And again, I don't think that they sat in a room somewhere and said, now here's how we're going to do it. But I think, Jesus said, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. A good man out of the good treasure of his heart brings forth good things. An evil man out of the evil treasure of his heart brings forth evil things. I think that's around Matthew 12:30. This woman, Raimondo, talking about Donald Trump, said we have to extinguish him. This is the Commerce Secretary, the same woman who didn't know anything about the labor reports that showed the job growth data to be completely wrong by close to 1 million jobs, inflated by close to 1 million jobs. So she didn't know anything about that report. So the woman is a complete incompetent, but nevertheless, she comes on MSNBC's Morning Joe and says, we have to extinguish President Trump. Yeah, extinguish. And she just lets that right out there. She said, let's extinguish him for good. That's a quote. Let's extinguish him for good. Now, this is after 2 assassination attempts on the man's life. So finally, toward the end of the interview, Mika Brzezinski, the woman who hosts this abominable thing that I never watch it, but I'm just based on reading articles and reviews, says to him, and by extinguish you mean vote him out. And she says, oh yes, absolutely. Well, it's a little too late at that point, because you've already sort of sent the signal out there. Extinguish him for good. I mean, doesn't that sound like a death threat? Let's extinguish him for good. So then when she's asked, by extinguish, you mean vote him out? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, and on Whoopi Goldberg, on that, the witch's brew called The View, she likens Donald Trump to a bug. He's like a bug, and he's like a bug. And I remind you that it was the Tutsis who likened the was it the Hutus, the Tutsis? I forget the name of the other tribe. I think it was the Hutus, but they likened them to cockroaches. Before they killed nearly 1 million, they tried to commit genocide against the Hutus. And I hope I've got that right. I sometimes get a little bit, I forget which tribe committed genocide against which, but I'm pretty sure I've got that right. Let me just double check that and straighten that out right now, because I hate to be wrong about that. Yeah, it is the Hutus. It was the Hutus who tried to exterminate the Tutsis. I had it backwards. It was the Hutus who tried to exterminate the Tutsis. But at any rate, they did so. They prepared themselves psychologically by referring to them as cockroaches. And she's comparing Donald Trump to a bug. And so while she's doing that, Joe Biden, right on camera, reaches out his foot, goes, and they all laugh. In other words, yeah, he's a bug. Kill him. And this is after 2 assassination attempts on the man's life. And you would think that these people are smart enough that they would say, well, we got to show some restraint on how we refer to him and talk about him, because obviously we don't want any nutcases out there to think we're in some way sending them a signal, yeah, go kill him. They're not doing that. They're still using the language of assassination, even if it's somewhat subtle. So when you call a man a bug and then you pretend to stomp on the bug, when you stomp on a bug, what are you doing? You're killing it. And I did see the clip. I didn't see not one sense of discomfort, not one sense of, given 2 assassination attempts on the man. I just don't think that's appropriate. So the bottom line is, what I said before is being confirmed over and over again. First, I said, they're not going to let up on this rhetoric. That was the first thing I said. And then I said, they want the man dead. They want the man dead. They are hoping that somebody will kill him. Because after 2 assassination attempts, to be talking this way, to me, is to say, let's keep the pedal to the metal and hope that somebody takes him out before Election Day. This is why we have to vote these people out, because they are truly antithetical to everything this country represents. They really are. They want to talk about the peaceful transition of power, and they're using all this rhetoric to try to get Donald Trump assassinated. And they want to talk about the peaceful transition of power as a hallmark of America. Well, please. As if the January 6th activities, as if that threatened the whole tradition of the peaceful transition of power. It did not. It did not. I mean, the people who went into the Capitol, I don't want to get into all the minutiae and details of that, but the people who went into the Capitol, I don't know if there was anybody in there who was idiotic enough to believe that somehow they were going to overthrow the United States of America, or they were going to install Donald Trump in as president, as permanent president, or any. There were. I guarantee, if you could find one person in that whole crowd who thought that, congratulations. Because I don't believe there was a single person in there who thought that. I think what the thought was to slow things down and give the country an opportunity to assess what happened in the election and to assess the legitimacy of some of these electoral votes in light of the shenanigans that had gone on in order to produce those election results. I think that was the motive. Now we're going to overthrow the country, we're going to overthrow elections, we're going to overthrow the Constitution, we're going to overthrow the government. I mean, insurrection, my foot. But that's the way they played it. But now here they are doing something which is clearly an attempt to subvert our constitutional republic, which is, let's see if we can get Donald Trump killed. Let's see if we can stomp him out like a bug. Let's see if we can extinguish him completely. We got to pray, folks, for his protection. I've said that many, many times, but I've got to say it again. We've got to pray for his protection, because if you think that the fairness or the decency of the Democrat Party will rein in their most radical or rogue elements, you got another thought coming. They're trying to unleash them on him. And now let's add to this mix Iran. Iran apparently is very serious about developing a plan, if they don't already have the plan. I don't know if we know what the plan is, and we meaning if our law enforcement officials know what the plan is, or the Secret Service knows what the plan is, but they clearly are committed to killing Donald Trump. But look, the Biden administration financed it. Now here again, folks, I'm not a conspiratorial thinker, and I say that because I want you to know, when I know I'm speculating, I don't have information that could prove this. All I have is what I know is the evil of the people I'm talking about. And therefore, in my view, nothing is beyond them in terms of moral compunctions. There's nothing they're unwilling to do in order to get and keep power. So, it does make you wonder, doesn't it? If releasing the initial $6 billion, and I think an additional $4 billion more, I think about $10 billion that's been provided to Iran, whether it's been unleashed with a wink, wink, nod, nod, tell you what, we give you this money, you kill Donald Trump for us. Go right ahead. Donald Trump, and here again, I'm not saying that happened. All I'm saying is I'm speculating because to tell you the truth, I can't find a rational reason for a president of the United States to release billions of dollars to a country that is admittedly committed itself to fomenting terrorism around the world and has never renounced that intention, and you're unleashing billions of dollars to them. Why? You want more terrorism around the world because that's what you're financing. Or is there something else? And again, I know people will criticize me, say, he's fomenting conspiracy theories. No, I am honestly and openly speculating about why an American administration would release billions of dollars to a rogue, outlaw, terroristic regime when we are now finding out that part of what they're doing with those resources is to figure out how to kill former President Donald Trump. Donald Trump said if he were president and they were threatening any candidate, and he didn't say Republican candidate, Democrat candidate, any candidate, he said he will tell them in no uncertain terms, if you harm one of our candidates or a president, we will blow you to smithereens. I haven't heard Biden say anything like that, have you? Not only anything like that, I haven't heard Biden say anything at all. I mean, even an indignant, we may not see things the same way as Republicans and Democrats, but we all love our country and we all honor the process of electing a president. And if I find out that Iran has harmed a candidate for president, or any candidate for that matter, there are going to be grave consequences, and they will be of a kinetic nature. Meaning, I'm going to put a missile up your backside. Ronald Reagan did that to Muammar Gaddafi, and you know what? All Gaddafi's little plans and shenanigans to do terrorist acts against the United States stopped. I mean, he turned on a dime. Yeah, because when you see a missile bearing down on you, that'll have an impact on your thinking. But Joe Biden says nothing. Why? I think the answer is obvious. And I've said it already. Because they want President Trump dead, and they don't care how it happens. If it happens, if Iran does it, great. If some nutcase in America does it, great. I think that's the way they're thinking. And look, I'm open to be proven wrong. I'm open to hear a bold, unequivocal consensus coming out of the Democrat Party that says we don't like Donald Trump, but we want Donald Trump protected. He is our fellow American. He is a fellow human being. He is a candidate for president. And no matter how much I may abhor his policies, I will defend that man's life to the death because it's un-American to be trying to kill a presidential candidate. How about that? As I said, if I heard something like that coming from a Democrat, I could at least respect that. But you don't hear it at all, do you? You know why? They're afraid that some of their far leftist friends who agree with them that they want Donald Trump dead will not vote for them or won't go out to the polls or won't work with them because they'll say, you turn soft. We all agreed that we got to get Donald Trump killed, and now here you are defending his life. Folks, I consider it to be sad that I have to say these kinds of things. I really do. And frankly, 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, I wouldn't have said them. But I say them now because they have a basis in fact. Okay? I would love to hear somebody say to me, oh, well, didn't you miss the press conference, the confab, the statements where they absolutely denounced violence and said, we are going to absolutely defend Donald Trump to the hilt? No, I missed it. Did you see it? Because I haven't. And even if they did something like that, when you're going on shows, gesturing, stomping on Donald Trump like a bug, or you're going on shows saying, yeah, he needs to be extinguished permanently. What was the language that she used? He needs to be extinguished. Oh, I'll find it. But yeah, he needs to be extinguished for good. That was it. He needs to be extinguished for good. For good means permanently. And that again, that's not the same as saying he needs to be kept out of office. Extinguished for good. When you extinguish something, you kill it. So, at any rate, folks, I will leave it to you to assess the that insight as you see fit. And some of you may disagree with me and may think that, well, I'm going a little bit too far. But and I stand ready to hear the refutation. I mean it. I'm serious. I stand ready to hear. No, the bishop, you haven't heard this. Look, I'm pretty well read on these issues. Don't get to go into everything in great depth because I've got a lot of stuff to do. But I pretty much get a broad swath of what's going on every single day, and I have not heard that. What I've heard is the things I'm reporting to you. You got Iran trying to have him killed, financed by Biden. You got Biden gesturing, stomping on him like a bug after Oprah Winfrey likens him to a bug. Yeah, and then you've got this woman, Raimondo, and she is Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo, saying we need to extinguish him for good. This from the woman who didn't know anything about the labor statistics correction of the prior jobs report, and downgrading the report by better than 800,000 jobs that they claimed to have been created that weren't. This is the woman who now says we got to extinguish Donald Trump for good. So you assess it for yourself, okay? But my assessment not only remains the same, but I am strengthened in my assessment that they really do want Donald Trump dead. I'm strengthened in that, which means we really have to pray for him, and we've got to demand the utmost. In fact, I think he really does need to hire private security to buttress the Secret Service, people that he can absolutely trust, because I'll be very honest, folks, I don't trust the Secret Service now. You look at the assessments of how they've managed the protection of Donald Trump. Did you hear that one Secret Service agent was asked, well, did it cross your mind that maybe given the fact that there was potential danger that Donald Trump should not be allowed to take the stage? Never crossed my mind. He said it never crossed my mind. So, something's clearly wrong. Oh my goodness, I've only got about 5 minutes or so. I already mentioned Mark Zuckerberg, and let's put it this way. I am cautiously optimistic about the changes I see in Mark Zuckerberg. So, it appears to me to be a little bit of a win. I'll take it. And let's hope he keeps moving in the right direction. Maybe somebody will even get a hold of him and witness to him the love of God and the faith of Jesus Christ, and get the man saved so that he revolutionizes Facebook and turns it into an organization that is committed to making sure that the Judeo-Christian values and principles of this nation are upheld and protected and promoted. Now I know that's visionary, but hey, God can do anything but fail. And let's believe God for that. Kamala Harris has been basically trying to avoid taking responsibility for the failures of the Biden administration, and they are many. But Joe Biden said, I think in that same interview, that he delegated everything to Kamala Harris. And so it's almost as if he's trying to absolve himself of responsibility for the terrible economy, for the high crime, for the open borders, for the weak foreign policy. He's trying to absolve himself and put it all on Kamala Harris, while she's basically trying to absolve herself and put it all on Joe Biden. Little quips like, I am obviously not Joe Biden. Well, given the way the Democrat Party thinks, I'm glad you said it, because we might not know otherwise. Because he could be a woman and you could be a man. Because what's the difference, really? So, but it's interesting that he's saying, no, I delegated a responsibility for everything to her, which is unusual anyway, because presidents do not do that for vice presidents, but that's what he's claiming. So who's lying? Probably both of them, because they're both liars. But she can no longer, based upon Joe Biden's statement, say, I had nothing to do with it. I'm going in a different direction. Yeah, right. And in this interview, and this was really a softball interview with this Stephanie Rule of the Marxist Socialist No Brains channel, who was basically trying to help Kamala Harris, because I think she's the one who said that Kamala Harris didn't need to answer any questions. But when she asked her basic economic questions, she couldn't answer them. Let me see if I can find one answer she gave. And I thought it was just bizarre. But she just couldn't. Oh yeah, here you go. Talking about Donald Trump. Quote, he's not serious about how he thinks about some of these issues. And one must be serious and have a plan, and a real plan. That's not just about some talking point ending in an exclamation at a political rally, but actually putting the thought into what will be the return on investment? What will be the economic impact on everyday people? What in the world is the woman talking about? You know, it's like the line Donald Trump said during the debate with Biden, with Joe Biden, where he said, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know. I don't think she knows what she's talking about. I mean, that was just one example of another one of these word salads. He's not serious. One must be serious. That's not just about having some talking point in an exclamation at a political rally. You know, and this is the woman without any plan whatsoever for anything. And she's got the nerve to be criticizing Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been president of the United States. Donald Trump implemented specific policies and strategies. We know what Donald Trump stands for. We've seen it. We've witnessed it. He clearly does have a plan. She does not. That was just one. I thought there was another one. Oh, here's one of the quotes she said. Gone is the day of everyone thinking they could actually live the American dream. Who's responsible for the American dream being gone? When she was asked how she was going to implement policies against price gouging, said, how do you go after price gouging without implementing price controls? Her answer was, yes, I'm going to go after them. I mean, there's just nothing here. The woman, once again, if she's not prepackaged and rehearsed with memorized lines where she's actually got to answer off the cuff, it just becomes obvious again that the woman is an airhead. I mean, her commercials sound pretty good. They sound pretty articulate, pretty coherent, but that's because somebody's given her lines and told her to say this. Look at the camera and say this. But when she's actually confronted with a question, even from a friendly reporter, she can't give a coherent answer. So, we just need to, again, pray and work and pray that the American people see this woman for who she is and that she loses by a landslide. Because I want a victory that says to the American people, we are not Marxists or socialists or communists, and we don't want our country led by Marxists or socialists or communists. That's not going to happen in our country. Did you see that, what is this story here? There's some stories arising. Yeah, I got to get this one in. I won't spend much time on it. But there's some stories arising about potential voter fraud. We've been finding in certain jurisdictions, in one, as a matter of fact, let me see if I can bring that one up. In Wisconsin, thousands of duplicate ballots. Now, why are duplicate ballots being made? And they tell, oh, that was just a glitch. That was just a mistake. Oh, yeah, right. Oops. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, that was just a mistake. Yeah. Okay. If you believe that, I got a great big old bridge in Brooklyn. I'll sell you cheap. So, again, we're going to have to be vigilant at these polls because these people intend to cheat. They do not intend to let Donald Trump get elected legitimately. If they have to cheat to stop him, they're going to cheat. Now, I can say that without any hesitation or equivocation at all because these people have no moral core whatsoever. And they will do whatever they think they need to do in order to get whatever they want. And by the way, Kamala Harris has supported the ending of the filibuster. And her main reason is that she wants to be able to pass a federal ban on any abortion restrictions, and she doesn't want the filibuster to get in the way of that. And that's their view of democracy. If I get one extra vote, I will impose upon the people all the baby killing I want, all the parental intrusions we want into the lives of children, to remove them from their parents' custody so we can operate on them and inject them with hormones and straighten out their gender confusion by mutilating their bodies. We can make all these illegal immigrant citizens. We can pack the Supreme Court. We can do everything we want to do by one vote. That's what they mean by democracy. That's what they mean. What they really mean is the tyranny of the majority. And they won't even have the majority of the American people. They'll just have the majority. If they have it, they would have the majority of the Senate in that case. Well, I think I'm going to leave it at that. We're done for today. I tell you the truth, folks, I don't know whether I'll be on live with you tomorrow. It depends on what plans I have to make in order to try to get to North Carolina, if I'm going to get there tomorrow. So like I said, you all be praying for me. Look, just stay in the fight. If you want to help us, we are running ads in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, particularly focused on black voters. If you want to help us, go to standamericapac.us, standamericapac.us. Make the most generous contribution that you can to help us run as many ads as we can in these communities to try to limit Kamala Harris's black vote. Because if she gets 92 to 95% of the black vote, which is what Barack Obama did, folks, we are in trouble. I don't see how we'll win Georgia or North Carolina or Pennsylvania if she gets that level of black support, and we've got to make sure that she doesn't. Help us. standamericapac.us. All right, you know what to do. Stand up, step up, speak up, refuse to back up. Because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit. Because we are on God's side. God bless everybody.